Delegate has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have the privilege of continuing our celebration of Black History Month. So I rise to share the powerful history of Black Americans lifting their voices for oppressed people around the world. Mr. Speaker, when I was a little girl in Portsmouth, Virginia,
The House will come to order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. When I was a little girl, I remember my grandmother telling me that the things she would do when we were sick or when anything was happening were passed down to her from her mother, who got it from her mother, who got it from home. I knew home to identify as African roots, but Africa was a place that I did not understand. Between the ignorance of Tarzan reruns and the complete eradication of African civilizations from my textbooks, I did not understand what it meant to be African, to have roots, to know that your people created the first libraries, the first agricultural and irrigation systems that changed the world. So when I was browsing through TV one day and I heard a song over and over again, Free Nelson Mandela, I did what any kid of the 80s would do. I went to the library to see what was happening in South Africa. And I went through news clippings and I saw people like Stevie Wonder, Coretta Scott King, and others speaking out against the apartheid regime, human rights abuses, and the systematic and brutal killing of Black South Africans. It reminded me of other things my grandmother would tell me about what it was like growing up under Jim Crow. She said it felt like being a slave. You couldn't go where you wanted to, and people just treated you any type of way. But while my 10-year-old mind was trying to comprehend apartheid, Black Americans were doing what we do best. They were organizing. And through the work of folks like Randall Robinson, Eleanor Holmes Norton, and others, Black Americans organized and demanded the U.S. stop its support of the apartheid regime in South Africa. These Black Americans who experienced their own apartheid could not stand by in silence as they saw others subjected to the same brutality. The Free South Africa movement dismantled the apartheid regime and led to the election of Nelson Mandela, the first Black president of South Africa. And the Black Americans who led the movement used their voices for what became the most successful foreign policy initiative led by Black people since we reformed U.S. immigration policies in the 60s. So, Mr. Speaker, as we talk about Black history, the global connectedness of Black people and the history of us using our voice is so powerful. We have a saying in the Black community. We have quite a few. But one is, say what you mean and mean what you say. So when we say that none of us are free until all of us are free, we mean the babies in the Congo. We mean the mothers in Palestine. We mean the children and grandparents in Kibbutz Be'eri. None of us are free until all of us are free. And I'm so delighted to understand now the history of Black Americans using our voices around the world to speak out for others. And I hope and pray that it is a legacy that we continue. Because as Virginia's very own Ella Baker once said, we who believe in freedom cannot rest. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.